how do we control the influence of others on our own emotional state, particularly when they are a partner or a spouse? Not an easy one, right? So really, this, I believe, is a longing for autonomy, personal autonomy, for a sense of balance, for a sense of self-awareness, while also wanting to be a responsive and a loving partner. Now, oftentimes there's an issue here of a concern around the partner, that the power that a partner might have over us and our emotions. And it becomes a worry about control. Right. And so this fear of being in or out of control can kind of manifest in a couple of ways, from influencing our moods to overall dictating our self-esteem. When we are afraid of the influence of others, usually it's because we have some boundary confusion. And when we are looking at boundaries through the lens of attachment styles, typically they are either too loose and porous, or they are fragile but rigid boundaries. Okay. Now, there's oftentimes the perception that avoidant partners, for example, have walls for boundaries. Their boundaries are too hard and too thick and too rigid. But I would argue that they are rigid, but they are fragile because they are rigid. Okay. When we have thick, heavy walls and we build a fortress, it's because we don't trust that internally we have the resiliency, right? We don't trust that whatever they do, say, or however they respond to me, yeah, it will sting and I can allow myself to feel that feeling, but it's not going to end me. I know I will be okay no matter what. I know that isn't going to make me abandon myself. But if this becomes a concern when we don't have that trust, because we were taught over time and through our conditioning not to trust ourselves, not to be fully at home and at residence within ourselves. And we become concerned about emotional influence because we don't have the tools or the mechanisms with which to connect to the essence of our being. How can we then connect to that? Well, to my mind, it is establishing boundaries. So I actually have a playlist on my YouTube channel, and we'll include a link to that in the replay of this video, specifically walking you through how to establish healthier boundaries so that you can trust yourself in these circumstances. The title of the one that you'll probably want to check out first is Somatic Approaches to Establishing Healthy Boundaries. And then we do a guided arts experiential to walk you through that. But in essence, what you want to do is when we have boundaries that are too rigid or too loose and porous, often it's because we don't have language for them. And we develop that language first by tapping into the body and noticing the senses, the sensational experiences that we are having, because that sensation informs our understanding of the emotion we're feeling, which informs what our need might be, which informs what our boundary is, right? So dropping into the body, something happens, and you want to notice, how am I feeling? Where does that live inside my body? How would I describe that sensation? And it doesn't have to be a feeling word. It can be like, ooh, that's a fuzzy, green, sticky, zigzag feeling. And do you like that feeling? I don't think so. It makes my body kind of close up and move away. And I notice my thoughts, I start thinking negative thoughts, right? So these are the preliminary stages of starting to understand yourself, connecting to yourself. And as you start to add these creative metaphors and images and colors, we create a visual language, and the unconscious self and the body responds better to metaphor and visual language, right? Or to expressive language, I should say, right? Because there could be a movement. Maybe it's not even a visual thing. Maybe it's a movement. Well, I don't know what's the picture. I don't know what the color or the shape is, but I know the movement is like this, right? Or I know the sound is like, all of that is informing you. In my work, we play with all those different forms of expression. And as you connect in with those forms of expression and you evolve that dialogue in that way, you start to connect with yourself. And as you repeatedly connect with yourself in this way, all that concern about someone influencing you, because I don't trust myself not to be influenced, kind of goes away. Because even if someone does influence me and I feel the power of their energetic impression, or I feel the power of their will, I know that even if I say yes when I'd rather say no, I know that's what I'm doing in the moment. I still have a sense of where I am in relationship to them. And this is life. You're not going to get it perfect every time. But if 7 out of 10 times you say no when you mean no, and 3 out of 10 times you say yes when you mean no, depending on what it is and how harmful it might be to you, you're still doing okay. So to put this more succinctly, we want to recognize what are our triggers. So in other words, noticing in the moment when you're having a physiological sensorial response to something. And then finding a way to express what is that response in such a way that you can recognize and interpret it. They said that to me, that whatever that was, they said that negative thing to me, and my body curled up. I got this fuzzy black zigzag feeling in my gut. And then it made me want to move away from them. And I started thinking bad thoughts about myself. All of that is tremendously insightful. And all of that is that first step in recognizing your triggers. What about that didn't I like? Right? And what is my body telling me about that? Now, the second thing is you want to start orienting your emotional well-being to your higher self, I will refer to it as, or to your spirit, or to the essence of your being. I call this soul-centered security as opposed to secure attachment. And let's just define secure attachment as a sense of personal authority, being a grounded person who sits in their own authority. I have a lot of clients who say, well, my attachment style depends on who I'm dating. You better cut that shit out, right? What? Of course, a relationship is something that both parties contribute to and build, and you're going to experience a response to the way someone shows up. Sure. But we want to get to a place where they are not completely compelling your behaviors, thoughts, and responses. We want to get to a place where you are so centered in, so tapped into the transcendent aspects of yourself, which are so above, far, and beyond the microcosm of a romantic relationship, that you can take in what's happening, you can experience your own response, and you can know where the lines are around both of those things and make increasingly conscious decisions about it, right? That discerning choice. And no longer say things like, the way I think, feel, act, and frequency of behavior is dependent upon the way somebody else is. No more of that. In my program, Hungry Love, we talk more about this in terms of the 4 phases of secure attachment. We released a video on my YouTube channel going over those 4 steps a couple of weeks ago. And basically the 4 steps are clarifying desire. So we get really clear on what we want. Number 2 is digging into the root pain. So this means looking at what is your life theme and how has the difficulties and the contrasts in your life evolved around that theme, and what are some of the stories that we can let go. Then we take a look at reframing. So this is when we reframe the negative thoughts and patterns into positive ones. Maybe I shouldn't say positive, but more allowing and surrendered ones that open up the possibilities. And then the last stage is installing them. So most people who've come to me, they are 30 years old or older, which means they've spent at least 3 decades experiencing themselves in the world in such a way through the filters of their attachment style. So what we're doing now is we're shedding that identity and we are constructing a new one based on our understanding of what has occurred so far, what is our curriculum in this lifetime, and how much free choice we have in choosing what we want to step into and inhabit next in our lives. So this is all about installation, adopting new beliefs and installing them in the unconscious mind, and embracing what we know to be that is within our control, and then choosing to let go of what we know to be beyond our control. So those are the 4 steps that we explore in my Hungry Love program. That's a robust program, and that's a 6-month program. I hope that helps answer that question. Also, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week, and I wouldn't want you to miss out.